Teacher volunteers at orphanage, only to discover a shocking secret about one of her students that challenges everything she knows. Alara Finch stepped off the bus, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and nervousness. The Maplewood Orphanage stood before her, a large old building surrounded by tall trees that whispered secrets in the wind. She had always dreamed of helping children, and today was the beginning of that dream. What if they don't want to engage? She tried to shake off her doubts, but they lingered like shadows. When Elowen arrived at the community center, chaos greeted her. Children ran around, their laughter mingling with shouts and the sound of chairs scraping against the floor. Some kids played games, while others sat quietly, unsure of what to do. Elowen felt her heart race. "Okay, Elowen, just breathe," she whispered to herself. She took a step forward, determined to find a way in. "Hey everyone, I'm Elowen. Who wants to have some fun today?" she called out, trying to sound cheerful. A few children looked up, but most continued with their own activities, their faces a mix of curiosity and wariness. Elowen's heart sank as she scanned the room. Then, her gaze fell on a boy sitting alone in the corner. His name was Kai. He was hunched over, drawing something on a piece of paper with a pencil. His dark hair fell over his forehead, partially hiding his eyes. When she looked closer, she could see a flicker of intelligence in them, but it was clouded by insecurity. "What are you drawing?" Elowen asked, taking a few steps towards him. Kai glanced up, startled. "It's nothing," he mumbled, quickly turning the paper away from her view. "Nothing? It must be something if you're working so hard on it," Elowen encouraged, gently. "I'd love to see it." Kai hesitated, then slowly turned the paper back towards her. It was a sketch of a house, but the roof was missing. "My family is... we need a new one," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Elowen felt a pang in her heart. "I see," she replied softly. "That sounds tough, Kai. Do you want to talk about it?" He shook his head, his eyes downcast. "No one cares. It doesn't matter." "But it does matter," Elowen insisted, kneeling beside him. "You matter." She watched as Kai's expression shifted, uncertainty mingling with the slightest hint of hope. Just then, a loud crash erupted from the other side of the room, breaking the moment. A group of kids had knocked over a stack of chairs, laughter erupting amidst the chaos. Elowen stood up, her heart racing again. "Okay, everyone, let's clean this up together," she announced, trying to regain control. Reluctantly, some children began to help, while others remained distracted. Elowen felt the weight of the room pressing down on her. "How can I reach them?" she thought. Each face held a story, a struggle, but they were all hidden behind walls of fear and doubt. As the afternoon dragged on, Elowen noticed Kai again, still sitting alone. She felt a strong urge to help him, to break through the shell that surrounded his heart. "I'll come back," she promised herself, watching him from a distance. The bell rang, signaling the end of the day, and the children began to gather their things. Elowen felt a mix of disappointment and determination. She had come here to make an impact, but the day had left her feeling more like a stranger than a friend. "Tomorrow," she thought firmly as she watched the children leave. "Tomorrow will be different." Her heart ached for the ones who felt invisible, like Kai. She knew she had to try harder, to reach deeper, because every child deserved to be seen and heard. The call to action had begun, and she was ready to answer it. As Elowen Hart settled into her role at the community center, her mind often drifted back to her own childhood. She remembered the warmth of her family home, where books lined the shelves and laughter filled the air. Her parents always supported her love for learning, encouraging her to explore new ideas and share her thoughts. Those memories brought her comfort, but they also deepened her understanding of what her students lacked. One afternoon, as she sat with a group of children, Elowen found herself drawn to a girl named Zuri. Zuri was quiet, but had a spark in her eyes that suggested a rich inner world. With her curly hair bouncing as she fidgeted, Zuri hesitated before speaking. "I want to be a writer," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Alawan leaned closer, intrigued. That's wonderful, Zuri. What do you want to write about? Zuri hesitated again, her fingers twisting together nervously. I want to write a story about a world without poverty, she confessed. But I don't know how. Alawan felt a rush of emotion. Here was a child with dreams, yet weighed down by the harsh realities of life. You can do it, Zuri, she replied gently. Let's start by writing down your ideas. I'll help you. The encouragement lit up Zuri's face, her eyes brightening with hope. Really? You'd help me? Of course, Alawan smiled, feeling a sense of purpose. Let's work on this together. As the days passed, Alawan continued to connect with her students, but she also learned about the struggles they faced outside the center. One afternoon, while discussing dreams and aspirations, Kai spoke up, his voice tinged with a mix of pride and fear. I have to take care of my younger siblings, he said, his gaze downcast. I worry I won't be able to provide for them. Alawan's heart ached for him. Kai, that sounds really tough. How do you manage everything? I just do, he replied, shrugging his shoulders. But sometimes I feel like I'm going to fail. Alawan wanted to reach out, to help him see that he wasn't alone. You're doing your best, and that's what matters, she said softly. It's okay to ask for help too. In the following weeks, Alawan began to notice the weight of domestic violence that shadowed some of her students. One day, during a quiet moment, a girl named Maya opened up. Sometimes I hear my parents fighting, she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. It scares me. Alawan's heart sank. Maya, I'm so sorry. You don't have to go through this alone, she said, her voice steady. You can talk to me anytime. Maya nodded, but uncertainty lingered in her expression. Alawan wished she could take away their pain, but she felt helpless at times. Every story she heard about violence and fear chipped away at her spirit. Determined to change the narrative, Alawan decided to create a safe space for her students. Let's start a project where we can all share our stories, she announced one day, her voice filled with enthusiasm. We can write, draw, or even act out our dreams and feelings. It'll be a way for us to connect and support one another. The children exchanged glances, their curiosity piqued. Zuri raised her hand, her excitement bubbling over. Can we write our own stories? Yes, each of you can write about what matters to you, Alawan encouraged. This is your chance to express yourselves. As the project unfolded, Alawan felt a shift in the atmosphere. The children began to open up, sharing their hopes, fears, and dreams. They were no longer just students in a classroom. They were storytellers, each with a unique voice. Miss Hart, can I write about my dream of being a doctor? Asked a boy named Amir. Absolutely, Alawan replied, her heart swelling with pride. Your story is important. As the weeks passed, Alawan realized that these moments of connection were not just about teaching, they were about healing. Though the challenges were immense, she saw glimmers of hope in the children's eyes. They were finding their voices, and in doing so, they were uncovering their own stories, one word at a time. Alawan Hart stood in the center's art room, looking around at the colorful supplies scattered on the tables. Today was the day she would try to create a safe space for the children to express themselves. She had come up with a project that would allow each child to share their dreams through art and writing. As she felt the cool autumn breeze coming through the open windows, she hoped this would help them feel more comfortable. All right, everyone, Alawan called out, her voice warm and inviting. Today, we are going to create something special. I want each of you to think about your dreams. What do you want to be when you grow up? What makes you happy? You can draw, write, or even both. The room was filled with a mix of excitement and hesitation. Some kids exchanged glances, unsure of what to do. A few looked at the floor, their minds racing with thoughts they could not yet voice. Alawan noticed Kai sitting in the corner, his face shadowed by uncertainty. She felt drawn to him, sensing the weight he carried. Kai, Elowen said gently, walking over to him. What about you? What do you dream of? He looked up, his eyes reflecting a deep intelligence mixed with insecurity. I don't know, he replied softly. I have to help at home. My mom works late, and I have to take care of my little brother and sister. Elowen's heart sank as she listened to his words. She could see the fear hidden behind his brave face. That sounds really hard, she said. But you can still have dreams, Kai. What do you hope for your future? Kai hesitated, glancing down at the table. I just want to make sure they are okay. I don't want to fail them, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Elowen nodded, understanding the pressure he felt. You are doing a great job taking care of them, but remember, it's okay to dream for yourself too. You are not alone in this. Across the room, Zuri raised her hand, eager to share. I have an idea for a story, she announced, her voice full of enthusiasm. Elowen turned her attention to Zuri, who had become one of her brightest stars in the group. Tell us about it, Zuri, Elowen encouraged, smiling. Zuri stood up, her eyes sparkling. It's about a world without poverty, a place where everyone has enough to eat and a warm home. I want to write about how people help each other. That's a beautiful idea, Elowen exclaimed. I would love to help you write it down. You have so much to say, and your voice matters. Zuri beamed with pride, her confidence growing. Do you think people will read it? She asked, her earlier hesitation fading. Absolutely, Elowen replied. With your talent, I know they will. Let's start by writing down your thoughts together. As Elowen guided Zuri through her ideas, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The other children began to feel inspired. One by one, they started to open up, sharing their fears and hopes. Laughter and chatter filled the air as they painted their dreams on paper. Can I draw a superhero? Asked one boy, his eyes wide with excitement. Of course, Elowen said, encouraging him. What kind of superhero do you want to be? I want to be a hero who helps kids, he shouted, enthusiasm lighting up his face. Soon, the room was alive with creativity. Kai, inspired by Zuri's story, picked up a pencil and began to sketch. Elowen watched him closely, hoping he was finding a bit of relief in the process. Hey Kai, she said, approaching him again. What are you drawing? He looked down at his paper, then back at Elowen, a small smile breaking through his earlier seriousness. A house, he said shyly, with a big yard, so my siblings can play. Elowen's heart swelled at his words. That's wonderful, a place for them to be happy. You are so thoughtful, Kai. As the session continued, Elowen felt a bond forming with the children. They were beginning to trust her, sharing pieces of their lives that they had kept hidden. Each child contributed their unique voice, and Elowen felt a sense of purpose grow within her. By the end of the day, the walls of the center echoed with laughter and shouts of joy. Elowen knew this was just the beginning. Together, they were building not just dreams, but a community of trust and support. The atmosphere at the community center shifted dramatically one chilly afternoon. As Elowen Hart prepared for the day, she sensed a storm brewing outside, but little did she know that an even bigger storm would shake the very foundation of the center. The usual laughter and chatter of the children were replaced by a heavy silence, thick with tension. Elowen had just set up art supplies on the tables when a loud bang echoed from the street. The sound startled her, and she rushed to the window. Outside, chaos had erupted. A group of teenagers argued loudly, and tensions flared. Suddenly, a fight broke out, fists flying, and voices raised. Elowen's heart raced as she watched the scene unfold. She knew the children were inside, and their safety was her priority. Stay here, she called out to the group of children who had gathered around her. Their wide eyes reflected fear, and she felt their anxiety like a weight on her chest. Let's do some breathing exercises. Inhale deeply with me. She took a deep breath, and soon the children followed, but their shivers betrayed their calm facade. Kai, who had been quiet all morning, stood by the window, his brow furrowed in concern. Elowen noticed him fidgeting, his fingers tapping anxiously against the wall. She approached him, kneeling to his level. "Kai, are you okay?" she asked softly. He shook his head, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if they come here? What if they hurt someone?" Elowen felt a pang in her heart. She understood that for Kai, the world outside was not just a distant danger, it was a reality he faced every day. "I promise, we are safe inside. But I want you to know it's okay to feel scared," she said, hoping to comfort him. As the chaos outside continued, Elowen's determination grew. She knew she had to act, not just for Kai, but for all the children who looked to her for guidance. "Let's gather everyone in the art room," she instructed, her voice steady despite the turmoil outside. "We can talk about what we're feeling." Once inside the art room, the children sat in a circle. Elowen took a deep breath and began. "I know today has been scary. It's okay to feel upset or worried. Let's share how we feel." One by one, the children opened up. Zuri, her voice trembling, spoke first. "I don't want anything bad to happen to my family. What if they get hurt?" Tears filled her eyes, and Elowen reached out to hold her hand. "I understand, Zuri. We all care about our families," Elowen replied, her heart aching for the young girl. "But we're here together, and we will support each other." The atmosphere in the room shifted slightly as the children began to express their fears. Kai finally spoke up, his voice stronger than before. "I'm afraid of what's going to happen to my little brothers. I have to protect them." Elowen nodded, recognizing the weight of his words. "You are brave, Kai. Protecting your brothers shows strength. But it's also important to talk about these feelings. You don't have to carry this alone." Just then, a loud crash echoed from outside, causing the children to flinch. Elowen quickly stood up, her heart racing again. "Stay put, I'll check what's happening," she said firmly, moving towards the door. As she stepped outside, she felt the cool air hit her face. The fight had calmed, but the energy lingered heavily in the air. A few parents had gathered, looking worried and unsure of what to do. Elowen took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. "We need to come together as a community," she called out, her voice clear and strong. A man stepped forward, shaking his head. "What can we do? Things have always been this way. Nothing ever changes." Elowen felt a spark of frustration, but quickly pushed it aside. "We can change it, one step at a time. We need to show our children they are safe here. We can't let fear dictate our lives." Kai emerged from the center, standing beside Elowen. "I don't want to be scared anymore. We can help each other," he declared, his voice carrying across the street. The parents looked at each other, surprised by Kai's bravery. Elowen's heart swelled with pride. If Kai could step up, so could they. Slowly, more voices joined in. "We can organize a community meeting," one woman suggested. "We need to talk about how we can protect our kids." As the conversation began to flow, Elowen felt a surge of hope. She realized that the children, like Kai, could inspire change. Together, they could fight against the fear that threatened to engulf them. The storm outside might be fierce, but within the center, a new sense of unity was blossoming. Elowen Hart stood in the community center's main room, glancing around at the faces that filled the space. The air buzzed with a mix of anxiety and hope as she prepared for the community meeting she had organized. She had invited parents, local leaders, and residents to come together to discuss the issues affecting the children. Her heart raced, but she kept her composure. "Okay, everyone," she started, her voice steady, though she felt a tremor beneath. "Thank you for coming. I know this may be a difficult topic, but it is important that we talk about how we can support our children." A few parents shifted in their seats, their skepticism evident. Among them, a woman with weary eyes crossed her arms. "What can we really do? We've tried before, and nothing changes." Elowen took a deep breath, remembering the stories of her students. "I understand your doubts, but our children have dreams and stories that deserve to be heard. They need us to stand by them." The room fell silent. Then, Zuri, a young girl with bright eyes, stood up. "I want to share my story," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Elowin smiled encouragingly, and Zuri continued, "I want to write about a world without poverty. I want everyone to have enough food and a safe place to live." The room shifted as people listened. Elowin could see the hearts of the adults beginning to open, even the woman who had been skeptical. "That's a beautiful dream, Zuri," Elowin said, her voice full of warmth. "Your words matter, and they can inspire change." Kai, who had been sitting quietly at the back, raised his hand. "I want to talk too." His voice was low but firm. "I worry about my family. Sometimes, I don't know if we will have enough food or a safe place to sleep." A murmur ran through the crowd, and Elowin felt a wave of compassion wash over her. "Thank you for sharing that, Kai. It takes great courage to speak up. Your story is important too." As the meeting continued, more children began to share. One by one, they spoke of their dreams, their fears, and the challenges they faced. Elowin watched as the adults listened, moved by the honesty of the children. With each story, the walls between them began to crumble. "I didn't know it was this bad for you all," one local leader said, shaking his head. "We need to do something." "Yes," Elowin exclaimed, her excitement bubbling over. "We can start small. Maybe we can gather donations for books and supplies. Every little bit helps." Another parent, a man with a kind smile, nodded. "I can help organize a fundraiser. We could hold a bake sale or a car wash." The atmosphere shifted from skepticism to action. Ideas began to flow, and Elowin felt a surge of hope. The children smiled, their spirits lifting as they saw their community rallying around them. By the end of the meeting, plans were in place. Volunteers signed up, and donations began to pour in. Elowin felt a warm glow in her heart as she saw the adults come together, united by a common purpose. Before everyone left, Elowin gathered the children together. "You all did an amazing job today. You shared your stories, and you made a difference. Remember, your voices matter." Kai looked at Elowin, his eyes shining. "Thank you for believing in us, Elowin. We can really make a change, can't we?" "Yes, we can," she replied, her heart swelling with pride. "Together, we can achieve great things." As the crowd began to disperse, Elowin felt a sense of accomplishment. The center was no longer just a building, it was a symbol of hope and unity. She knew there would still be challenges ahead, but today had shown her the power of community. As she watched the children laugh and play, Elowin realized that change was possible. It was just the beginning, and she was grateful to be part of it. The collective action of the community had sparked a light, and she could feel it shining bright, guiding them all toward a better future. As the sun rose over the horizon, casting a warm glow on the community center, Elowin's heart stood outside, taking a moment to reflect. The chaos that once filled the air with uncertainty had transformed into a lively atmosphere of hope and laughter. The threat of closure had not only been faced, but overcome, and the center now radiated with the vibrant energy of the children who called it home. Elowin watched as the children played tag, their laughter echoing around the yard. She felt a smile creep onto her face. "Look at them," she thought. "They are so full of life." The struggles they had shared had brought them closer together, and now they were ready to dream bigger than ever. "Hey, Miss Hart," Zuri called out, running towards her with a piece of paper clutched tightly in her hand. "I wrote another story." "That's wonderful, Zuri," Elowin exclaimed, her heart swelling with pride. "Can I read it?" "Of course," Zuri beamed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She handed the paper over, and Elowin skimmed through the words. It was a tale about a brave girl who stood up against the darkness in her world, just like Zuri had done. "This is amazing," Elowin said, looking up at Zuri. "You have a real gift for storytelling. I can see your dreams shining through every word." Zuri's cheeks flushed with happiness. "I want to be a published author one day, Ms. Hart. Just like you said. As Elowen continued to read, Kai approached, his expression serious. Ms. Hart, can I talk to you for a second? He asked, glancing at Zuri, who nodded and stepped back. Of course, Kai. What's on your mind? Elowen replied, sensing the weight behind his words. I want to help with the community meetings, he said, his voice steady. I think I can talk to the older kids and ask them to join. There are more of us who care about this place. Elowen felt a wave of admiration wash over her. That's a fantastic idea, Kai. Your voice matters, and the support of your friends will make a huge difference. Kai smiled, a hint of pride in his eyes. I just want to make sure our center stays open. It's important to all of us. Elowen nodded, feeling grateful for the strength of the children around her. You are all so strong. Each one of you brings something special to this place. As the day went on, Elowen organized a small gathering in the center. The children shared their dreams and stories, their voices blending together in a chorus of hope. Parents and community members sat in the back, listening intently. I want to be a lawyer, Kai announced boldly, standing up in front of the group. I want to help people like us who don't have a voice. The room erupted in cheers, and Elowen felt a rush of warmth in her chest. Yes, Kai. You can achieve anything you set your mind to, she encouraged. Zuri followed, sharing her vision of a world filled with books and stories where everyone had the chance to succeed. If we all work together, we can make our dreams come true, she said passionately. The parents began to nod, some even wiping away tears. Elowen could see the shift happening. The community was starting to understand the importance of their involvement. As the gathering ended, Elowen found herself standing outside again, watching the children play. She felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. The community center had become more than just a place to gather. It was a sanctuary where dreams could be nurtured and hope could flourish. Ms. Hart! A chorus of voices called out, pulling her from her thoughts. The children ran toward her, their faces lit up with joy. Can we have a talent show next week? Zuri asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Elowen laughed, a sound of pure joy. Absolutely. Let's showcase all of your amazing talents. It will be a night to remember. As the children cheered, Elowen felt a sense of peace settle over her. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united as a community. And in that moment, beneath the autumn sky, she knew they were all on the brink of new beginnings. Share this story if you believe that hope and community can transform lives and overcome obstacles. Leave a comment about a dream you've pursued with the support of others, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales like this one.